All right, time now for your questions, which have come in during the week on social media. Sergio, I want to start with a question from Steven, who asks if Martin Bakole is the most dangerous heavyweight in the division. We know that Bakole is set to return against Efe Ajagba on the undercard of this Ryan Garcia-Devin Haney doubleheader. Is Bakole the most dangerous heavyweight out there?
At this moment in time in the heavyweight landscape, yes, he is. But he's no Deontay Wilder. Wilder was more susceptible. Bakole actually is a heavy combination puncher that fights like a big man. He's definitely a big man, has that power. At this point in time, yes, he's the most dangerous heavyweight out there. Think about it. Who else is there? He struggles with movers. He struggles with
this is kind of my problem there.
He struggles with he will struggle with Parker. He'll definitely struggle with Usyk. He will struggle with anyone that doesn't stay in front of him.
That's the thing. Like, Bakole's the kind of guy that can beat top level guys in the first round. Like, if you engage with him, he will flatten you. At the same time, if you he's kind of like a what is it, totem pole or what? He's sort of like, he stands in the middle of the ring.
Totem pole.
He's got stands there and doesn't step into his punches at all. He's got such great power behind those punches, but he doesn't move very well.
Right.
That's why Michael Hunter had success against him. I guess the short answer is yes, he's really dangerous, but against the right opponent, he can also lose 12-0. Like, I think even Bakole admitted after the Jared Anderson fight, like, Jared Anderson could have gone the distance here if he just moved around a little bit more. And in that first round, before Anderson got knocked down, he was winning. He wasn't doing anything, but he was just throwing jabs to the body and knocking Bakole down. I think Bakole is one of the most fascinating guys out there. And then I think he's starting to get like a bit of a fan base. Like Bill Simmons over at The Ringer is someone I talk to a lot. And one thing that Bill will text me a lot about is Martin Bakole. Like, loves Bakole after that Jared Anderson fight. And I think people want to see him in with the right opponents. I think Ajagba's a great opponent. Like, I think those two guys are going to bang it out. So I love that fight between those two guys. But, you put Bakole in with Alexander Usyk, and he's going to get wiped out.
Oh, man, that's going to be a one-sided fight. It'll be a display of sweet science by the smaller, undisputed heavyweight champion in Usyk, fighting like a dangerous ballerina, boxing circles around Bakole.
Unified heavyweight champion Usyk.
Oh,
Give Danny Dubois.
Politics. Hey, you know what? I like that Bakole-Ajagba fight.
Great fight.
Can you imagine that fight in Africa?
Well, it's going to happen in New York, but that's...
No, you got to put it somewhere exotic.
It's going to happen in New York.
Like the Rumble in the Jungle type
I'm
stuff.
just telling you it's going to happen in New York.
I'm just telling you, you never know with this Riyadh season,
it's
money.
like tentatively scheduled to happen in New York.
You never know. Money could change things. All right, forget it.
It's like talking to a wall sometimes. All right. Carlos says Eddy Reynoso times Jaime Munguia. This is in response to the revelation that Jaime Munguia is going to start training with Team Canelo for his next fight. Do you like the pairing of Reynoso and Munguia? And can Reynoso make Munguia a better fighter?
I love the pairing with Jaime Munguia and Eric Morales. I love the pairing with Jaime Munguia and every trainer that he's faced. So no, to answer your question, I don't like it because it has nothing to do with the trainer. Anytime you have a boxer or an athlete that has to change trainers so often or change girlfriends so often, they're the problem. They are the problem. All right. So they need to look themselves in the mirror and say, okay, what am I lacking? What am I missing? And then that's what I need to correct. But whenever you go and change and blame other people for those changes, that's when you're not really getting better yourself. So Jaime Munguia and every other boxer that changes trainers so often, look yourself in the mirror. Your trainer's not the problem. You are. That's it.
Look. The Morales pairing made Munguia maybe more exciting, but it just reinforced Munguia as an all-offense, no-defense fighter.
And that's fine. You're not going to turn Jaime Munguia into Pernell Whitaker.
Nobody's trying to do that. But I think there is a middle ground there, like where you become slightly better defensively and your offense still carries the day. I mean, Canelo...
Munguia's not smart enough for that.
All right, well, then that's a different story altogether.
He doesn't have smart feet. He doesn't have quick instinct. He doesn't have fast twitch muscle. Munguia is who he is, a plodding, strong, young, very exciting kid. And he's conditioned. But now that he got knocked out, now that he got his chin cracked, you can bet that he's not going to be that young, strong, exciting fighter anymore. He's going to be thinking twice. So I don't care if you have Angelo Dundee or the greatest trainers in his corner. Jaime Munguia is not going to change, especially after getting knocked out. So the trainer's not going to make any difference. You'll see the exact same Munguia.
One thing I like about the work that Eddy has done with Canelo, and look, Canelo is an all-time great, but Canelo's ability to be a good defensive fighter has evolved over the years. Like early on, he slipped everything, right? Like you look at the Daniel Jacobs fight, like he was so good defensively in that fight because he slipped, he rolled, he was just really fluid with his movements. Now, he's more of like a punch parrier, right? Like he keeps his guard up, he knocks your shots away. He's evolved defensively. Maybe if you're Eddy Reynoso, you can try to turn Munguia into that form of defensive fighter where you just keep your hands up a little bit more and not lead with your chin every single time, because that's going to get Munguia hurt again, like he was against Bruno Saras.
Yeah, I could see that. Munguia needs a Mexican trainer, a Mexican style, where you're not going to change him too much. But he had that in Eric Morales. But I guess I want to be positive here. I want to be, glass half full. But I know what I'm seeing with Jaime Munguia. I've already seen the trainer changes. I've already seen, we called so many of his fights. I've been following his career since he won the title against Saddam Ali. He hasn't changed. There's been spots. There's been spots and little tinges of change. Is that a word, tinge? Yeah. Right.
Tinge, maybe not appropriately used there. Yeah.
Little specks.
Subtle changes.
Specks or sprinkles
of change. Just say subtle changes.
But then he resorts back to who he is. And that's what happens because, you are who you are. You're not going to change as a person, a man, or a fighter. And if you become that successful for that long amount of time, your bad habits will always catch up to you no matter who you have in your corner. So Jaime Munguia is who he is, and nobody's going to change him.
All right, we got two questions about Bakhram Murtazaliev. So a couple of Murtazaliev fans out there, Ivan and Ted, both asking what's going on with Murtazaliev, what's going to be next for him. Murtazaliev, of course, defended his IBF 154-pound title, knocking out Tim Tszyu in a pretty spectacular performance. I actually want to read straight from a text I got from Kathy Duva of Main Events, who promotes Murtazaliev. She says, nothing yet. Murtazaliev just got the all clear from his doctor, start hitting things. So now that we know he's able to train again, we'll start making plans soon. Now, Murtazaliev was known for a long time as a guy that fought on these Jermell Charlo undercards and collected a check, got a huge opportunity against Tim Tszyu and capitalized on it, knocking out Tszyu and really establishing himself at 154. I'd see him in against any of the top guys at 54. It is a insanely deep division right now, really 1 to 15 with top guys, and you name it, whether it's a champion like a Fundora or someone like a Charles Conwell. I want to see Murtazaliev in with all those guys. So whoever it is, sign me up to see Murtazaliev in against them.
Sign me out, because I don't care that he knocked out and beat up Tim Tszyu. I don't care that he's a dangerous fighter. He's one of these forgettable names. Bakhram Murtazaliev, 1. 2, he's going to be avoided by the big names.
He's got a belt.
He's going to be avoided by
he's
the
not
big...
going to be avoided.
He's going to be avoided by the big names. Don't interrupt me. Because it's just, you don't want to face a guy like that, with a name like that, with a style like that.
With a title.
That comes second. That comes third, actually. No one's going to want to fight that guy. I'm telling you right now. So they're going to have... Duva's going to have a hard time promoting him, making him a popular sell. Yes, they can cash out because of that belt, but it's not going to be against the name. So that's my take.
Okay. Like, go down the rankings at 154 pounds and think about the fights you could make against guys that would happily get in the ring with them. A Sergey Boachuk would get in the ring with them. Virgil Ortiz, if he won, would get in the ring with them.
Maybe.
Boots Ennis would probably get in the ring with them. Charles Conwell would get in the ring with them. I just named like 4 or 5 guys off the top of my head.
Yeah, and I said yes to the 2 A-sides on that. The A-sides won't fight him. The B-sides will fight him. They have no other choice.
You think Sebastian Fundora wouldn't fight him?
He's not an A-side.
He's got 2 belts at 154.
He's not an A-side. Even as a champion, he'll be a B-side, I think.
He's got 2 belts at 54. Like, who would be the A-side in a Fundora versus Murtazaliev fight?
Fundora Murtazaliev. Yeah, that's a good question. It'll have to be Fundora.
It would be Fundora, yes. I think you're dead wrong on all this. Look,
Fundora makes sense. Fundora fight anybody.
There's no sexy name right now at 54. We assume that Terrence Crawford's never coming back down to this weight class if he goes up to fight Canelo. It's probably going to be the last fight of his career. I don't think there's going to be any issue whatsoever for Kathy Duva and Agus Klimas, who's the manager of Murtazaliev, to make a big fight for him. I think he's going to maybe he comes back against someone of a lesser level, but by the end of the year, he'll be defending that title against somebody that's pretty big. So where do we go next?
Bakhram Murtazaliev. I could probably close my eyes in front of a keyboard and type his name just by typing.
You can barely type your name with your eyes closed in front of
I do it with my index fingers.
Okay. How surprised would you be, is from Roa, how surprised would you be if David Morell beats David Benavidez? And should the winner be ranked on the pound for pound list?
Yes, on the second part of that question, I think the winner should be on the pound for pound list, crack that top 10, because if Tank Davis is in a lot of people's top 10 lists, then definitely, the winner of this fight should be in it. Man, I go back and forth to it. Early, I definitely favor Morell. Late, I definitely favor Benavidez. But I already made my pick on this podcast, and I'm going with David Benavidez by late knockout, because I think the over-aggression of the longer arms and the slightly taller fighter in Morell, that's going to turn against him with the quicker, explosive hands that are concise and compact of Benavidez. So I think he runs into something short and fast and explosive in the second part of the fight.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if Morell won. I think Morell has the potential to be a great fighter. We just haven't seen him in with someone of Benavidez's caliber. But no, I wouldn't be shocked if he won. And yeah, I think both guys should be ranked in the pound for pound. Benavidez has been knocking at the door of pound for pound for a while now. The win over Plant, the win over Andrade, those were pound for pound caliber fights. He's undefeated, 2-time super middleweight champion. If he beats Morell, I'd probably put him in that 5 to 7 range. Morell would probably just crack the back half or the back end of that top 10. But yeah, I think
who would
both
you
guys.
take out in that top 10?
Well, right now I've got Devin Haney at number 10, so I'd probably take him out of that spot. And you got to start considering Tank fighting guys like Frank Martin and the guys that are in that part of the top 10. Sound of Silver asks, could the Saudis and Ring Magazine finally put they call it the mob family business of belts out of business? Basically implying the sanctioning bodies. Could they put the sanctioning bodies out of business? I certainly hope so. I would love to live in a boxing world where there is one title, whether it's the Ring Magazine or otherwise. 4 titles are confusing to the casual fan. More often than not, in each weight class, there's more than 4 titles because there's interim titles. There's champions in recess. There's silver titles. There's secondary WBA belts. So it's all very confusing. I would love to see boxing consolidated to one champion per weight class. And if it's the Saudis that can do it, great. More power to them. Would love to see it.
I would love to see it too. I think it's going to take a lot of money, and the Saudis are shelling out, boatloads of money. So the only way I think this could happen is if all these boxing organizations get either bought out, which is one, which I don't see happening.
You don't have to buy them out. I mean, just don't use them. It's basically just ignore them.
Or, you overpay fighters and make it the only place to fight for big money and big championships. And that's going to be the new, title that everyone's going to want. The one that pays you the most, the ones that has more eyeballs on it and makes it the most prestigious, So, yeah, I think it happened. I really do think it could happen.
Look, again, I would love it to happen. I don't think it's going to happen, though. I think these belts...
Me neither. I just said that.
Yeah, and these sanctioning bodies are just... You can't kill them. You can't kill them off. And there's always going to be fighters out there that want to wear those belts around their waist. I understand the value that comes with declaring yourself a world champion, regardless of which title you're taking. So I would love to see it, but I don't think it's eventually going to happen. Last question from Ryan. If Betterbiev beats Bivol again, is retirement more likely than a fight against Morell or Benavidez? It's an interesting question because Betterbiev is 40. Like at some point, he's going to have to slow down. But every time I talk to Betterbiev and I bring up retirement, he kind of shrugs it off. He says, yeah, my body's been through a lot over the years, but when he's in training and he's not injured, he still feels pretty fresh. And based on what we saw against Bivol the first time around, if he looks close to the same in this rematch, I don't see him walking away, especially not when there's going to be so much money on the table for him to fight a Benavidez. We move up in weight to fight Zurdo. I don't see retirement being in the offing for Artur Beterbiev.
Beterbiev is not retiring at you know, at the peak of popularity, at the peak of profitability. My Latin tongue won't let me say it, but you know what I'm talking about. The peak of money, of purses. There you go. So he's not going anywhere. And the fact that he's a big puncher, the fact that, you know, he's not a mover. He doesn't rely on foot speed and legs and footwork. Yeah, he has the perfect style to fight into his 40s because he has the power and he's flat-footed and he has, you know, the shelled-up strong defense and he's incredibly muscular and strong. So I think he could fight well into his mid-40s and still be successful. He has the right style and power and pedigree. I mean, you always forget that he was an Olympian, that he has like the Olympic pedigree, that he
fought Usyk in the amateur
that he knows
ranks.
how to box, that he knows how to, you know, shift his power. So he's more than just a power puncher. I mean, he's a finely tuned power puncher with a high fight IQ, and he's an incredible person to watch. So yes, he can fight into his mid-40s easily.
You know who's not a finely tuned power puncher? You.
Let me guess me. Hey, listen, but for my mid-40s, I look pretty good. And speaking of which, you left your hair dyeing pomade in my car. So why don't you dye that gray hair, Mr. Mid-40s?
Yes, hair gel. It's
Mr. Mid-40s. I'm doing all right.
I see a couple up there. I see you targeting those grays. I see them.
No, man, I'm letting them come in distinguishedly. I think I'm waiting for my gray hair to come in. I think I'm going to look just fine.
All right. We'll agree to disagree on that one.